Well, that's hot. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everybody. So, look, guys, if you was on the live stream last night, I think it was Donna. Donna put in the chat, she gave this headline, and I said, look, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. So an article's come out this morning, and it's in response to an interview this defense chief gave. I think it's with Andrew Marr. Now, what they're saying is that conscription at the moment in the United Kingdom is not ruled out. In fact, let me share this. I'll share this article with you just initially, so you guys know what I'm talking about, and then I'll just read it. So no, it's not right. So this is the article here. Conscription not planned but not ruled out by defense chief. Now that is what I'm going to be talking about today, guys. I'm also going to share with you. I'm also going to share with you a video. And the video is just like, when I watch this video, I'm in uncontrollable rage, guys. I'm in uncontrollable rage because these guys have no idea what they're talking about. And it really does wind me up. It really does wind me up. So this defense chief, I'm quite confident now. He's an absolute buffoon. I don't know what other word to use. But as far as I'm concerned, this defense chief, Richard Knighton or whatever his name is, he is an absolute buffoon. He's no idea what he's doing. He's no idea about defense. I don't even know how he's got into that position. And this just highlights the problems that I keep highlighting with the way Britain's defense, the military-industrial complex. The other day I did a video, yesterday actually, I was walking into IKEA or something. And in that video I said, look, if you guys don't understand the game right now, the game is to make as much money as possible, right? From these wars. We all know that. We all know that. Now, the problem is nobody makes any money from a short war. You know, a short war, a short, quick war where there's a decisive winner and a decisive loser doesn't make any money. What makes the big money is the long drawn out war where you have huge artillery, you have huge artillery production capacity, you have huge drone capacity, you have tanks, you have bombs, you have all this sort of stuff in production, and you're building lots of stuff. And unfortunately, so there's like there's some people that say war is profitable. It is, but not a short war. A short war is not profitable, guys. Right, let me put the So I'm going to share, before I get into the article, guys, I want to share with you this video because it will just if you guys have been following my videos, you guys will understand exactly what this guy's saying, and you'll understand how much of an absolute buffoon he is.
There were urgent conversations going on about Britain having some.
Okay, so just for context, all right? These people have no idea the words they're saying. And like people are looking at these people and you think, oh, look at him. He's in his, I don't know, what is he? Mid-50s? This guy's in his mid-50s. He's a presenter to a show. He must know what he's talking about. I will say, ladies and gentlemen, categorically, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. He's reading words off a piece of paper, off a screen, and he has no idea about what he's saying. And the guy he's talking to, he's not much better.
Some kind of Iron Dome system to protect ourselves from missiles. Are those conversations carrying on, and how are we getting on with that?
Okay, so what he's saying there is, I mean, look at that guy with all his pomp and pageantry. So what he's saying is that Britain needs an Iron Dome defense system. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just let you guys know how futile that is. Like, if we're looking at the Israeli defense system where they've got, who built it? I think it's Leonardo who built it. They have active and passive radar all the way around Israel. And when something comes over, it will fire missiles up and intercept it. Just so you know how ridiculous that is for the United Kingdom, all right? It's like saying we're going to build a glass roof over the United Kingdom. Britain's like this. Look, guys, Britain isn't huge. We're a relatively small country, but Israel is even smaller. And Israel, because they're a tiny, tiny, tiny country, they have the capacity to do that. Britain, it's just so absurd. And look how seriously they're talking. They might as well be talking about unicorn poop and will it make you fly? Yes, there's been some conversations in Whitehall about unicorn poo and will it make you fly and bulletproof to the enemy? Yes, there's some conversations in Whitehall and we do believe that a sufficient amount of unicorn poo will make people... Okay, guys, it's not even on the cards because unicorn poo doesn't exist. Unicorns exist. They just got fat and become rhinoceroses. Now, listen to this guy's answer. And it's so ridiculous and evident to me that both of these people have no idea what they're talking about.
Yes, they are, we call it integrated air and missile defense. And we have over 30 years not really faced a threat from the air in that way.
So what he's saying there is, yes, the conversations are around, but we've got 30 years of doing nothing. So we're on the back foot and we don't know what we're doing.
And so as the threat has evolved, Russia's capability and willingness to use ballistic and cruise missiles has become more apparent. Become clear that that peace dividend needs to be reversed and we need to invest more in our radar capability, in our airborne air defense, and also in ultimately our ability to shoot down these drones and cruise missiles.
Okay, so what he's saying there is it's just empty words. It's just empty words what he's saying. The reality now, guys, and the more I look at this, the more I look at this with the experience that I've got, which is certainly more than his, the more I look at this and see what's happening, I'm convinced the whole military and political, they're just buffoons, guys. They're absolute buffoons. I would run this, like, if I was in charge, do you know what? Not even if I was running the country, if I was in charge of defense, nobody would dare attack us. Literally, nobody would dare attack us. And did you hear what he said there? We need to invest more in defense. We don't need to invest more. We need to produce more. Those things are not synonymous, all right? You can spend more money and get less. Absolutely. Absolutely, you can spend more money and get less. We need to spend less money and get more. Oh, but Sean, that's easily done. Oh, that's easier said than done. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's really fucking easy. It's really fucking easy, guys. We stopped paying professors at universities. We stopped them taking 100 grand a year for being a professor and thinking at a university. Yeah, they do that, guys. There are Sheffield University, Leeds University. I would suspect Oxford and Cambridge universities as well. They have professors who are part of the defense network, and they are getting pulling salaries top end of 100 grand, and they don't produce anything. They're getting paid because they're a professor and people want them to build some sort of super weapon. Look, guys, and the problem is there won't be any new super weapon because there's been no advances in physics. We are literally working on we're still working on 1950s physics. We are, we're like almost 80 years ahead. All our technology is 80 years old. Oh, Sean, they've got secret things in secret labs. They haven't. I'm just putting it out there, guys. Now, nobody's got anything secret in secret labs. We're still working on Newtonian physics. We're still working on Einsteinian physics. We're still working on E equals MC squared. Nothing moves faster than the speed of light. Nothing can move faster than light in a vacuum.
Because at the moment, I think if the Russians lobbed a cruise missile at us, God forbid.
Okay, first of all, he doesn't know.
We rely on a frigate bobbing off London somewhere as our defense. In other words, we are way behind the Israelis, way behind the Americans, way behind other countries in defending our population properly.
So we know right across NATO that one of the biggest gaps in NATO's capability is integrated air and missile.
So, I've got a few more videos to share with you guys, but I just wanted to start off with that one to show you guys how absolutely inept these people are. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing listening to the words these people are saying. They have no idea what they're talking about. Really, guys, they have no idea what they're talking about. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the UK defense. So that guy we just spoke to there on the interview. And look, guys, when these people come to, let me get the article up. I shared with you guys the article. This is an article from UK Defense Journal. Conscription not planned, but not ruled out. So remember what I say to you guys if you say but in a sentence. Yeah? If you say but in a sentence, it means you don't believe the thing you previously said. Or you're questioning what you previously said. You may not have 100% faith in what you've previously said. Oh, God, I like that dress, but maybe it should be a bit longer. Oh, your hair looks nice, but why don't you tie it back? Conscription is not planned, but not ruled out either. Okay, so I'll read this article, guys, okay? This, like I said, this is an article that was published yesterday in the Defense Journal. Where are we? It doesn't give the time. It was produced. It's on the UK Defense Journal. You guys can go and read it yourself. I shared it earlier. It's by George Allison. It was released yesterday, the 16th of December, UK Defense Journal. That's the headline. Conscription not planned, but not ruled out by defense chiefs. Defense chiefs are the Chief of Defence Staff, Sir Richard Knighton, has said he cannot see conscription returning in the short term. What does that mean? Short term, the next week, 2 weeks, a month? What does that mean, short term? While warning that the UK must increase the size of both its regular forces and reverse forces and reserve forces as global security pressure intensifies. Speaking to Andrew Marr on LBC, and that's the interview I just shared with you guys, Sir Richard said that there are no current plans to introduce conscription. Okay, so right now, guys, I'll just give you an example. Right now, I have no current plans to have a sip of my coffee. I have no current plans to have a sip of my coffee. Do you know what, actually, now I've said that, I do fancy a sip of my coffee now. Oh, but Sean, you said you had no current plans to have a sip of your coffee. When I said it, it was true. But as soon as I said it, I reevaluated and I thought, well, you know what, actually, I do want a sip of my coffee. So you've got to look at the language here, guys, okay? So there are no current plans to reintroduce conscription. So I believe there may be further plans, but declined to rule it out over the long term. I cannot see, and then they're quoting him, I cannot see conscription returning in the short term, but the situation in the world may deteriorate very significantly. Do you reckon? Jesus. Do you reckon it's going to deteriorate? I wouldn't want to predict out beyond the next few years right now. There are no plans to bring in conscription. So I think maybe he's saying in the next couple of years or whatever. Instead, he said the immediate priority was expanding manpower through voluntary service. You know what, guys? Like, for those of you who've been watching me for a while, I've said this is coming, because what you need to do is conscripts and trained soldiers are not the same thing, and they are used totally differently. Honestly, guys, like, the comparison is night and day. It's like comparing an apple and an orange. Yes, they're both round fruit of a similar size. Yes, they're both men in a similar age bracket with camouflage uniforms on and a rifle, but they are used totally different. The way you use conscripts and the way you use a trained army are totally different, guys. The comparison is like night and day. If anybody wants me to come on to that, because I have done that quite a few times, I'll explain the difference in how to use a conscript army and how to use a trained army. And I can pretty much guarantee that this Sir Richard, he has no idea how to use either. But I have said, that the first steps will be to bolster the manpower through voluntary means. So they're going to be asking people very soon, and I've said February. That's going to be the first stage. They're going to ask people, because they will be the motivated soldiers. They will be your trained soldiers. They will be your infantry. Your motivated soldiers. the next round of recruitment may be a little bit more aggressive, and they will be used differently because they will be your conscripts. So now we've got all the willing and the motivated soldiers. We put them to one side, right? They're going to be used for a separate task, right? Okay, we need to separate the wheat from the chaff because you don't want to mix them. It's the worst thing you can do, literally, guys. The Ukrainians, like when the Ukrainians were. I was speaking to some Ukrainians and they were saying, like, do not send us conscripts. Because what happens is, if say that you've got, I don't know, I think this may happen in the United Kingdom. It'll be an absolute disaster if it does. But say, just for example, say you've got, I don't know, whatever numbers, it doesn't matter. Say you've got a unit and you've got 100, no, but let's make it easy. Say you've got 10. Let's say you've got 10 motivated soldiers, right? And somebody thinks it's a good idea to bolster those with 90 conscripts. So now you've got 100. I'm keeping the numbers simple, guys, okay? So now you've got 100, all right? What you actually do then, you don't have a unit of 100 motivated guys. You have a unit of 10 motivated guys and 90 guys who just don't want to work. They're like, yeah, we're not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm not loading my weapon. I'm not going out there. I'm not doing that. Nah, you do it, not me. I'm not here for that. That's literally what happens, guys. I've seen it. So then what happens? The two things will happen. One, either the head command, and look, guys, when I'm giving you guys this analysis, all right, look how granular this analysis is, okay? Just look how granular this analysis is right now. And if there's any subject matter experts out there who want to challenge me, absolutely fine. But look how granular I'm going into this. So you get two things happen then. So for those of you guys who may have missed what I just said, reinforcing trained soldiers with conscripts doesn't work. That's why you have to keep them separate. So if you've got a unit of 10 motivated guys, and then you reinforce them with 90 conscripts, so you've got 100, keeping the numbers simple. What happens? Well, one or two things will happen. And it's going to depend on the situation. So one of the first things that could happen, and it's going to depend on the ground and the situation, those 10 soldiers will just give up on the 90 and say, right, you guys don't do anything because you're liabilities to us. Like, just, you're not going to do anything. Fine. Don't do anything. Just don't get involved. That happens. Trust me, guys, that will happen. Because those 10 guys, they would rather be able to depend on somebody to put suppressing fire down, than they'd rather be able to depend on one person to put suppressing fire down than not be able to depend on 10 people not to put suppressing fire down. You see where I'm going with that? Or the other thing that would happen is those 10 people who are motivated then have to take like 9 people each and try and be their leader or their squad leader. And that's just a recipe for disaster because you can't plan anything. Now, I've seen both of these things fail, and they always fail. 100%, they always fail. If you try and reinforce trained soldiers with conscripts, it's just a clusterfuck, guys. It's an absolute cluster. My personal experience of operating in Afghanistan, where we would get poorly trained Afghan National Army, you don't want them. You're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just going to stick with a few blokes I've got. My personal experience from the front line in Ukraine, talking to the guys on the front line in Ukraine and understanding the battlefield. That's what happens when you reinforce trained soldiers with conscripts. So what you have to do is when you're using conscripts, you have to use them separately. You can't mix conscripts with trained soldiers. You cannot do it, guys, all right? So you have the trained soldiers for one task and then the conscripts for another task. Now, the way you have to treat these conscripts is brutal. It's brutal. It's war, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, war's brutal. It's not Call of Duty where you're all running around and, you play. It's not that. It's brutal. You're cold, you're wet, you're hungry, you're tired, you're scared. Your hands don't work. You may have lost some friends and you're being asked to push forward. It's not nice. It's not nice. So the way you use conscripts and the way you use trained soldiers is totally different. And I don't think people understand this yet. Certainly the Russians understand this, and the problem here is the Russians have always used conscripts, so they know how to use those conscripts, and they're prepared for it. They can push those guys through. So, right, so let's get back to this article. So, instead, he said the immediate priority was expanding manpower through voluntary service. Asked whether now was the time to recruit more people into the service, Sir Richard replied, yes, is the short answer. The commitment in the SDR, the Strategic Defence Review, was to grow the size of reserves, but also we need to grow the size of our regular force. He pointed to the UK's distant historical experience with national service, noting that conscription ended in 1960, while many European states retained it into the 90s and beyond. Sir Richard also expressed confidence the public would respond. I'm not so sure, guys. I'm not so sure the public are going to respond. Sir Richard also expressed confidence that the public would respond if the country were threatened. So, you know, there's a lot of people talking about a false flag. I don't know. Time will tell. But a lot of people are talking about a false flag to be blamed on Russia to then roust the troops. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm just saying that other people are saying that. I have every confidence in the fighting spirit of the nation. Do you know what? He can fuck right off. Honestly, Dick, I'm just going to call him Dick. Sir Dick, you can fuck right off. Honestly, it's ridiculous. It's absurd. Whenever this nation has been asked, it stood up. What I was asking last night was for the nation to step up in the face of that threat. I don't know, guys. I just don't trust this guy. I don't trust this guy. Right, let me jump onto the chat. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking this morning about the prospect of a global conflict on an industrial scale. We're talking about the UK defence. We're talking about UK defence conscription is not ruled out. That's the headline. Oh, Donna has sent a lovely Christmas present. Thank you so much, Donna. Sent me £30. Thank you so much, Donna. Merry Christmas to you, Donna. From her family, I hope you and Sarah have the best day. Thank you so much, Donna, and I hope you and your family do also. Thank you so much for the super chat, Donna. Right, where are we on the chat? Yeah, exactly. So paranoid does it. So look, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking this morning about the headlines in the news. This was from last night. This was the headline from last night. And the headline from last night was the UK defence chiefs are not ruling out conscription. That's what they're saying. They're saying they're not ruling out conscription. As we're heading towards whatever we're heading towards, we really, I don't know how World War III and World War IV, they are as clear as night and day now. They're as clear as night and day. But as Paranoid Dozzy is saying, the threat is coming here on rubber boats. I agree 100%, buddy. We have a threat here on rubber boats. Sean, Eric. I'm thinking about like an e-cigarette. Eric has a good comment. You should, hang on, let me think. Where's Eric? Where's Eric? Right, where's Eric? I'm trying to find Eric's comment. I'm just scrolling up, guys, to try and find Eric's comment. Ah, there we are. Does a young people want to fight for their own countries based on your ancestors died in the Second World War so you can be alive today? Oh, God. Do young people... okay, so, first of all, I don't think people... I think the days of, fighting's ridiculous. It is. There are no winners in a war. Let's just look at Ukraine real quick, okay? I will bring this comment back up. So let's just look at Ukraine right now. Ukraine's done. Whether Ukraine defeat the Russians or whether the Russians defeat Ukraine, Ukraine is over. The amount of young men the amount of young men that are gone, they are not going to be able to repopulate, and their way of life is over now. They've got to have a new way of life. So even if they win, what does a win mean if you've lost your country? You know, so nobody ever wins a war. The same could be said for the United Kingdom. Like walk around London, you know, does it feel like that was a win? You know, does it feel like, you know, does that feel like a win? Does it feel like a win? So in response to Eric's question, does a young person want to fight for their own country based on your ancestors that died in the Second World War, or so you can be alive today? Okay, so I do think there's going to be a lot of young people who will answer this call. I do. You know, I do. I know there'll be a lot of young people who are going to answer this call. Like I've always said, guys, okay, World War III, the international war, overseas, guns, tanks, bombs, trains, planes, automobiles, artillery, drones, submarines, space, lasers, you know, all that stuff is going to be fought by the younger generation. That's going to be World War III. And if you're under 30, you are going to be in that conflict. If you're over 30, you're going to be fighting the war on the streets. I would say a big number of people will answer this international call, a big number. But, you know, the real threat, look, guys, let's be clear, guys, okay? The real threat to British culture, to Britain, and it depends what you mean by Britain. If Britain is the country, then Britain, the country, is going to be here forever. You know, it's a piece of land. If we're talking about Britain as the people who are in it, the culture, the institutions, the way of life, going to the cricket field in summer, watching some random people playing cricket and getting drunk, watching having a summer fete on the cricket field. If we're talking about that way of British culture, then the real threat is not from the Russians, guys. The real threat is for British culture now I'm talking about, then the real threat is from, you know, it's from these, you know, it's from mass migration. It really is, guys. You know, it is from mass migration. There's no way around that. You know, last night I talked about this. I said, Britain's over. And it is, you know, the demographic changes right now are over. So in response to this, if you're under 30, obviously there's going to be overlaps. There's going to be people who are 40, probably like me, who's going to be doing international shit. You know, but if you're over 30, you're going to be fighting World War IV. If you're under 30, you're going to be fighting World War III. The cat thinks, he's saying, I live in the US. Russia is not my enemy. Ukraine is not my friend. You see, the problem here is, like, the game is simple. And I'm going to tell you how the Russians are going to play this, guys, okay? I'm going to granularize how the Russians are going to play this now. So yesterday, okay, so first of all, big wars equal big money. World wars change the world. The world will change after this, guys. And look, ladies and gentlemen, I've been telling you that this is coming. I've been documenting this. Check my videos, literally check my videos from as long as you guys want, you know. Check your videos as long, you know, as long as you want. I've not changed tack. A short, decisive war, nobody makes any money on that. Nobody makes any money. So the long wars, the long drawn out wars, they're the ones you want to have now. If you want to consider, and I did a video about this yesterday on TikTok. When you make things profitable, people do it, right? So when you make things profitable, people do it. So if you want to set your minds back to what, the 1700s, maybe the 1700s? I think it was the 1700s. And we had the United Kingdom. There was something in the United Kingdom called the East India Company. And what they did, it was wild. The Crown, the King of England, made it profitable for private companies to go and take land. They made it profitable. So then it became really profitable for you as the East India Company or whatever to go and seize land and take land and hold land, right? You now have the private industry thinking, right, okay, if we minimize on staff, and maximize on capacity, we get maximum profit. So now, rather than those soldiers saying, we're doing this for king and country and getting paid regardless, they're doing it for their own pockets. And that's when you see the mass expansion of the British Empire. It's nothing to do, it's nothing to do with like the king. It's all to do with the East India Company taking that ground and holding it because they made it profitable, right? Okay. Now, here's how the Russians are going to play this, okay? Here's how the Russians are going to play this with conscripts, okay? What the Russians are going to say, remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is my speculation, my analysis, my opinion for entertainment. Any correlations to mainstream media and mainstream news is purely coincidental. So I would say that this is how I would play if I was Putin right now. This is what I would say. I'd say to my conscripts, I'd say, right, guys, listen. If you guys push into, I don't know, Finland, the Baltic states, whatever, if you guys push into that place, whatever you take, whatever land you take, that's yours. You're still Russian. It's Russian, but you own it. What? Yeah. So you say to the conscripts, this is the new warfare. And this is why, that guy I just showed you with all these dangly things on, he's no idea what's coming because he doesn't understand this culture. He doesn't understand history. He's like an air vice marshal. So all his time he's spent in the British RAF. So look, guys, I've no doubt he knows about F-35s, tornadoes, typhoons. I've no doubt he knows about that. He doesn't know what's coming. So if it was me, if I was Putin, I would say to my conscripts, right, lads, closing. Right, okay. I want you to push into Finland. I want you to push into, wherever. Norway, I think, has got a border. The Baltics, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland. Well, Poland doesn't actually have a border with Russia. But I want you to push into Europe. Whatever land you take, that's your land. So now you get these Russian like maybe peasants, I don't know, Russian conscripts who've never had any money. And their leader, Vladimir Putin, is saying, right, if you go into Finland and you take a house, that's your house. If you take 2 houses, they're your houses. If you take a car, that's your car. Obviously, that land will be Russian, but you will own it. What do you think is going to happen? Literally, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get these you're going to get land pirates. That's literally what people are facing. And here in the West, we have no idea what's coming. That's how you use conscripts. There's no, even with conscripts, it's going to be virtually impossible to defend against that. There will be no supply chain to disrupt. There will be no command chain to attack. There will be no kill chain. There'll be no communications to intercept. You will literally, and look, guys, give me that. Be honest. Do you think that would be a better tactic than having your guys formed up in section, platoon, and company formations and moving forwards with your logistic supplies, with all your fancy new, you've got all your Land Rovers and your Humvees and you've got all their servicing parts and the tanks and you've got everything and, which one do you think's better? So, using conscripts and using paid soldiers, they're very different, guys. They're very different. They're very different ways to do that. Band again is saying, I've got my house. I'm not fighting anymore. I can't leave it or someone else will grab it. Well, here's the thing, right? You can imagine if you're like, let's get the warm-up up, actually. Let me get the warm-up up. Give me a second. I'll get the warm-up up. So you can imagine, where are you guys, right? Let me get the warm-up up. Let me turn that down. Okay, so you can imagine right now, okay? Where are we? I don't even know where we are. Where are we? What's this? I don't know. Well, let's just have a look. Let's just have our daily looking at Pokrovs. It's not refreshed for today. Or has it? Hang on. No, it's not. Oh, it has. Okay, right. So it's not refreshed for today. Right, okay. So you can imagine now, right? Imagine Latvia here, okay? Latvia, Estonia, you know, Finland. Look, let's imagine Finland, right? You see, you've got all these borders. Oh, and this is for those of you guys who don't know. So for those of you guys who don't know, these red areas, these are where the Russian troops are massing. Just so you guys know. So just imagine, I don't know, Finland, you know, wherever. Estonia, something could happen in Estonia, and or you know, Riga, Lithuania. So imagine right now, okay, you've got let's just say here, wherever. Let's just zoom in. Let's just say right here, you've got a shitload of conscripts here, right? You've got a shitload of conscripts, and total hypothetical, right? And Putin, in fact, that's a bad example, actually. Maybe that's better. You know, again, that's another bad example. I'm trying to find the perfect example, but it's probably not gonna exist. Let me see. I bet there's one here. I bet there's one here. Let the ground dictate. No, there's not. Right. Right. Do you know what? That is a good example, actually. Okay, so let's just say, ladies and gentlemen, all right, and I'm gonna show you how you use conscripts. How you use Britain's East India Company model, and you use land pirates to take ground. All right. So right of this red is Russia. Right of the screen is Russia. Then you've got like this border that bisects the screen, pretty much 50-50. Okay. So if you guys can see that town there on the left called Sala, or let me zoom in a bit more. Actually, you guys can't see. So this little town here, look, guys, this is just for an example, all right? This is just an example, all right? So you've got for example, you've got hundreds of thousands of conscripts here, or maybe not, maybe like a couple hundred conscripts. It doesn't really matter. You say to them, you say, right, you conscripts, okay? What I want you to do, I want you to go down that road, and I want you to seize that town. If you seize that town, it then becomes yours. And you can keep that, right? It's Russian, but every house in there, you own it, you know, but the land, you know, land belongs to Mother Russia, you know. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to go in there and they're going to seize that town. And that's going to be theirs. And that will be minimum. That will be at minimum cost to Russia. So when people are saying, you know, about how a conscript army can't fight with an trained army, it's true, but that's not how they're going to fight, guys. That's not how they are going to fight. Christian Dom Defender is saying nothing is what you see. Lord Raven. I feel I should be Lord. Debbie Doobs is saying, I set off wrapping, then started bundling similar items into the package. I don't know what that means, Debbie. I don't know what that means, but I'm down with it. Debbie, I don't know what that means, but I'm down with it. Danny Walker is saying, morning, what have I missed? So look, guys, I've got loads of videos to go through. So this morning, guys, we're talking about the news that was out yesterday from the Defense Journal, which is in response to an interview that guy with all the Dickie, Lord Dick, Sir Dick, the interview that Sir Dick gave, where he was saying that conscription is not ruled out. So that's what the government are saying, okay? Conscription is not ruled out. But like I give you guys the example, all right? I'm just holding this cup of coffee right now, guys. I've got no intention of having a sip of this cup of coffee. Right now, I have got no intention. I've got no plans of having a sip of this coffee, okay? I have no plans of drinking this coffee. Well, do you know what? Yeah, I changed my mind now. I now have plans to drink this coffee, and I'm going to have a little sip. So you understand how the words are meaningless. You know, the words are absolutely meaningless. I think it's coming. I've been saying to you guys that it's going to get announced in February. It's not going to be conscription to start with. It's going to be a, you know, it's going to be a push for military recruitment. Now, let me share with you guys this. So that's the World War III front. The World War, I forget, guys, listen, I struggle with my 3s and 4s. What's that 6-7 thing? Does anybody know why the kids keep saying 6-7? Like, I don't know why kids keep saying 6-7. It's winding me up. It's winding me up. I want to jump onto the World War IV front now because it turns out 75%. Let me share this with you guys because this is wild. Okay, 75%
next year. What do you think to that?
Sorry.
Ipsos, a firm that I'm sure you'll be familiar with, they today released their 2026 predictions looking at the year ahead. They predict that they suggest that 3/4 of British citizens think that large-scale public unrest is going to occur next year. What do you think to that?
Maybe I got the Summer of Carnage wrong, guys. Maybe it was this. Maybe it's coming this summer. So what Doobs is saying there, Rachel Doobs on GB News, I believe it. Yeah, it is Doobs, definitely. It says it at the top and the bottom. So what she's saying there is that there's been a recent poll, and from this poll, 75% of people in the United Kingdom now think that mass civil unrest is going to happen next year.
Well, look, I don't think there's going to be large-scale public unrest in our country. We've got big challenges in our country.
First of all, look at that guy. I don't know who he is, but look at him. He doesn't know what he's saying. And this is what winds me up. It really annoys me, guys. You know, we have these people that come on the TV. They have no idea what they're talking about. Listen to the absolute garbage and non-communication that he gives. He's saying words, but he's not saying anything. He doesn't know anything.
We all know that, whether that's in the NHS.
Ipsos, a firm that I'm sure you'll be familiar with, they today released their 2026 predictions looking at the year ahead. They predict that they suggest that 3/4 of British citizens think that large-scale public unrest is going to occur next year. What do you think to that?
Well, look, I don't think there's going to be large-scale public unrest in our country. We've got big challenges in our country.
So he then goes and quotes the NHS. So, you know, like it's just, you know, the more I look at this and the more I look what's happening, I'm convinced that you don't get to be in a position of power if you're smart. Honestly, like Jess Phillips. Is it Jess Phillips? That Birmingham woman who I just don't like. I've got no reason for that. She might be a lovely woman. I just, you know, there's something about her. I don't know what it is. But we've got 75% of the public now believe 75% of the public now believe that mass scale civil unrest is coming next year. You know, which puts things onto the World War IV front. Guys, what am I back? Am I back? Did I just jump off? I think I've jumped off. Guys, am I still streaming? Guys, am I still streaming? I don't know if I think I'm streaming. I think I'm on. Right, sorry guys, I don't know what happened then. Debbie Doobs is saying conscripts are cannon fodder. Yes, you know, and what people need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Conscripts and trained soldiers, they're totally different. They are totally different. And I just hope that people in the military understand that. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do, guys. I'm sure they do. Right, hang on. I've got a couple more videos to share with you guys. I've got an Adam Brooks video, but the perspective's gone, so I'm not going to share that. I've done that one, so I'll close that one down. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. This is a good one. Let me share this with you. This is quite funny.
Despite
So there you have it, guys. He's the next British prime. He will be the next British Prime Minister. Him, no one else. Maybe Farage as a second. I think the next Parliament is going to be Conservatives and Reform, and then it's just going to be Conservatives after that. Robert Jenrick, he's going to be the next Prime Minister, guys. Anyway, let's listen to what he's got to say.
it's hard to believe how gullible some immigration judges can be. Listen to this case. An illegal migrant is given the right to live in this country, potentially for the rest of his life, despite the fact he won't say his date of birth. And when asked other questions, he says, I don't know, more than 150 times, and I can't remember, almost 50 times. The judge says he's credible and gives him asylum. It is a total and utter joke.
So this case is, I think it was an Afghan man, or I might be wrong on that. I mean, it doesn't really matter where he was from. But there was these asylum cases when they go to, so they're going to court now, right? They're going to court, people. So, do you want to settle in the United Kingdom? Yes. Okay. And some of the questions that they asked him were like, security questions. So I'm going to assume, for entertainment purposes, that they may or may not have asked him, and you guys can check this out yourself. I wasn't in the courtroom. They would have asked him questions like, are you a terrorist? And he said, I don't know. Have you ever been affiliated with a terrorist group? I don't know. How old are you? I don't know. And he literally, so this is like, so now that precedent's done, now people know the cheat code. It's like the cheat code, right? Like when you used to play the old computer games and you had like the controllers and you used to do like, I don't know, up, down or something. You used to get free stuff. It's a cheat code, right? If you want to stay in the United Kingdom, you don't want to, for example, right? Let's just say that you are an Islamic State operator and you're not allowed to renounce your pledge to Islamic State. Let's just, for argument's sake, all right? Just wild conspiracy. Let's just say you come into the United Kingdom on a small boat and, you pledged allegiance to Islamic State or whatever group, and then you get to the United Kingdom and the authorities, they get you, they catch you out and they say, ha, are you a member of Islamic State? And you say, I don't know. Okay, fine. He's okay. He can go. That one can go, Eric is saying you have nomadic people weeing and booing, robbing people for their cell phones, destroying property. It's an invasion. Yeah. I think there's let me just check this. Okay, I'm going to share this with you guys now. Okay, so there's verses in. I'm just going to, I'm going to share it and then I'll jump back and I'll just read it. Okay, so I just asked AI because I know it's out there somewhere. I just asked AI, what verse in the Quran does it say that you can lie to Christians? So I got this up, guys. I spelt it wrong, of course. So I'm just going to read off this because there are verses in the Quran that say you can lie. You know, you can lie, or what is? I'll just read it now, guys. Okay. The Quran doesn't explicitly say you can deceive Christians, but remember what we said about the word but? Even AI knows how to use but. But verses related to taqiyya, or I'm not going to try and pronounce those words, guys, and divine scheming. So that's what they call it. So Muslims call it divine scheming, are often cited, particularly in Surah Surah 3:28, allowing disbelievers to be friends for protection. So you can have friends who are Christians if they're going to protect you. Do you know what? I'm going to show you this again. So for all these liberals, guys, who think that they're allying with, the Muslims are their friends. I'm just going to read you what AI says there. Surah 3:28, allowing disbelievers to be friends for protection. So this is from the Quran. So the Quran allows you to ally with people for protection. And then guess what? What do you think is going to happen when their protection is not needed anymore? See Iran. Verses like 354, 799 and 830, which also describe Allah as the best of deceivers or plotters, interpreted by some as sanctioning deception against enemies, including non-Muslims, while others see it as Allah thwarting disbelievers' plot, not promoting deceit. So I'm going to read it for you now, guys. Okay, Surah 3:28. Let not believers take disbelievers as allies instead of believers, and whoever so does will have nothing to hope for from Allah, unless it's persecution against their tyranny. So what that verse is saying is you can ally with those people for your own protection, you know. Interpretation, this verse is seen as bias, allowing Muslims to outwardly show friendship or hide their beliefs from non-Muslims for self-preservation, but not hold them as true allies. You know, so look, guys, I'm not a scholar in the Quran. I hear stuff and I see stuff and I remember that stuff. So look, guys, you know, tell me what you guys think in the chat. What's Morgath's law? I don't know what Morgath's law is, guys. I've got no idea what Morgath's law is. Yeah, so this word here, what Bandagain is saying, that taqiyya, guys, look, taqiyya, look, guys, I speak Arabic and I don't even know what that word means. Taqyya. I can't pronounce that word, guys. I make no apologies. I can't pronounce that word, guys. I'm sorry. But that's what they were talking about. So that word there, whatever that word is, guys, I can pronounce Kitman. So whatever that word is there, that TAQ word, that is it's a thing in the Quran where Muslims can make friends to non-Muslims for safety, but they're not their real allies, you know. And if you want to know what happens when that protection is no longer needed, i.e. when they've got the majority share of a land, see what happened in Iran. Didn't end well for the Iranians at the end of the late 70s. Taqiyya, Debbie Doobs is saying it's pronounced taqiyya, Sean. Sorry, guys, I can't pronounce that word. But thank you, Debbie, for letting me know. Right, let me jump down, guys. Ketty, right, I don't know what it's called, guys. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back on track. let's get back on track. So I want to share either that video again or a different video. So we've done that one. Have we done this one? Right, I've not seen this video, actually. I've not seen this one. So let's do this video together. Let's do this video together. Remember, if you guys were watching the live stream last night, do some pattern recognition. So, you guys can like Google or whatever. You can go on and you can say like Iran in the 60s or like 70s or whatever. And you see pictures of like, liberal Iranians walking around. The women don't seem to be persecuted. Men are wearing suits. Women are wearing, I'd say normal clothes. And then people do this like side-by-side comparison. And we all look, we all say, oh, look how bad it is. Look how bad it is in Iran. Look how bad it is in Iran. Look what's happened to Iran. Look what's happened to the United Kingdom, guys. Like, you could take pictures of London in the 60s. You could take pictures of London in the 80s and take pictures of London now. And it would be a sad story. So let's, guys, I've not seen this video. Let's see what it's all about.
Gang called Racist Attack, innit? Yeah, that was literally their name. It was called Racist Attack, just full of like white skinheads and that. But this is long before our generation, long before mine, long before yours as well. Yeah. Like, kind of saying, which is kind of funny.
I love his medallion there. That medallion is beautiful. I love that. I don't know what it is, but I think that is fantastic. I hope he doesn't get it stolen, because it seems like it's it seems like he's got an affinity to it.
Full circle cult. All their sons are axing that now. Like,
all their sons are the man.
I don't know what they're talking about, guys. I've no idea what they're saying.
Owen Joe and their axe, all their brethren are. We've got black cutes and that. So what? Yeah. They used to be like heavy stones of
Who's he in the background? Who's that in the background?
racism. But nowadays, I feel like obviously multiculturalism.
Yeah, man.
Everyone's getting educated more and shit and stuff like that. You see, with this whole England thing and this nationality thing, and I feel more comfortable saying, yeah, I'm from South than I'm English.
real shit.
Man's more of a Southie than an Englishy.
That's real.
That's how I feel.
Okay, well, I think what we can take from that is we have segregation massively now in the United Kingdom, and this is the way we're heading in the United Kingdom right now. For anybody who's anybody who's in the anybody who's served in the military, anybody who's ex-military who has served in Northern Ireland, or maybe you guys live. I know I've got a few people who live in Northern Ireland. You guys will understand how segregated Northern Ireland is. You have estates. And they don't cross-pollinate. That's between Catholics and Protestants, and that's what's coming to the United Kingdom. You literally have just seen it there. We are going to have, and I don't know if this is happening already. I will suspect it is. You will have at some point, somebody will do a video on it and it will be online. You will have a scenario where you've got, somebody will take a picture and say, look down this street. On one side of the street, it will be the Cross of St. George. On the other side of the street, it will be like Somalian flags, Eritrean flags, Pakistani flags. And that's how it starts. That's the segregation. You start with the flags, then you start putting the walls up, then you start fighting. It's literally what's coming. Have we done this? Right, I think this is... Right, I've got another video to share with you guys. Okay, listen, guys. So for those of you... Oh, I've done that one. Right, I am going to share this video again because I just want people to understand how inept I just want you guys to understand how inept these people are who are the so-called in charge of our military. So, guys, if you're joining for the first time, if you guys are joining for, Wilfred Wood, what a fantastic name. Wilfred Wood, that is a beautiful name. I love that name. Wilfred Wood is saying, I'm ex-military. I'm assuming you mean you're ex-military. I will not fight for Starmer. We'll only fight enemy within and Starmer's fascist government. Yeah, look, guys, World War IV is going to be fought on the streets. World War III will be the overseas thing. WMW82 is saying sectarianism is already here. No, mate, you're absolutely right. It is. It is. Sectarianism is already here. It's already here. 100% is already here. All you need to do is look at some of these people that are getting voted in. You need to look at some of the policies that are getting pushed through. I mean, we have a situation right now where we have local councillors, literally, guys, this is true. We have local councillors. I can't remember where it was in the UK, but they're running for office in Bangladesh. So their day job is going to be a councillor in the United Kingdom, dealing with everyday things for the United Kingdom. And they're trying to get elected in Bangladesh as members of parliament. How's that even happening? We have got people now who are running and this is at council level. This is at low level. We have got local councillors who are running their election campaign on Palestine. And they're saying, like, you know, we want a free Palestine. You're like, if you vote for us in, I don't know, if you vote for us in Northumberland Council, we're going to free Palestine. And you're thinking, honestly, why do people care? Like, it's so ridiculous that that's where we are. So absolutely, you know, sectarianism is already here, 100%, mate. Right, but what I'm getting at here, guys, is the crux of this video. The UK Defence Chief, Sir Dickie Knighton, he's not ruling out conscription. He's saying there's no plans. You know, he's saying there's no plans for conscription. There's no plans for conscription. Like, I've got no plans to drink this coffee right now. I've got plans to drink this coffee now. You see how easy it's done? So I'm going to share this video now, guys. I shared it at the beginning of the live stream. I'm going to share it and then I'm going to close the live stream down. But I want you to take note that neither of these two people have any idea what they're talking about. The levels of buffoonery are phenomenal. Phenomenal.
There were urgent conversations going on about Britain having some kind of Iron Dome system to protect ourselves from missiles. Are those conversations carrying on, and how are we getting on with that?
Okay, so just so everybody knows, it's ridiculous to say that Britain can have an Iron Dome system. We're too big. Like, the cost would be ridiculous. It's not even a thing. Now, look, like, why is he sat there with all these, like, you know, with his fancy little lanyard on? It's so absurd, guys. It's so ridiculous. And listen to his answer. You know, it's like, I mean, he's an RAF guy, right? So, to me, this conversation is so absurd. It's so absurd. He might as well be asking him, what does Rudolph eat to make him fly? Well, the conversations in GCHQ and the RAF bases is that Rudolph has a diet of unicorn poo mixed with, it's just so absurd. Because everybody knows that Rudolph flies with those little candy canes and Christmas magic.
Yes, they are, we call it integrated air and missile defense. And we have over 30 years not really faced a threat.
What he means there is we have over 30 years of not really doing anything
from the air in that way. And so as the threat has evolved, Russia's capability and willingness to use ballistic and cruise missiles.
I just thought of something, right? You know, when they so I'll come on to this in a second. I've just thought of this. So you know, when they send over, like, you know, when the Russians like probe the defenses and fly the aircraft close, right? Britain will send up two, you know, Typhoon interceptors, you know. from where are they from? I can't remember where they're from various places. But you know, when the Russians send the aeroplanes close, we send up 2 RAF Typhoons and escort them back. If they came in rubber dinghies, we welcome them in and put them in hotels. Oh, it's fucking crazy. Fucking crazy. Right, where are we? Sorry, guys, let me continue.
Has become more apparent. It's become clear that that peace dividend needs to be reversed, and we need to invest more in our radar capability, in our airborne air defense, and also in ultimately our ability to shoot down these drones and cruise missiles.
Because at the moment, I think if the Russians lobbed a cruise missile at us, God forbid.
This guy has no idea what he's talking about. Honestly, like I can tell looking at him, he's just, this is what the problem is. These same people, right? These same people who sit there day in, day out reading a script, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm confident that he has no idea what the words he's saying actually mean, and he's just reading it.
We rely on a frigate bobbing off London somewhere as our defense. In other words, we are way behind the Israelis, way behind the Americans, way behind other countries in defending our population properly.
So we know right across NATO that one of the biggest gaps in NATO's capability is integrated air and missile.
I mean, he is right in that we don't have any air defense, you know, but it's ridiculous, guys. So that guy with all the pomp and pageantry, he's the guy who's saying that conscription is not ruled out. Conscription is not ruled out. He doesn't see it for the foreseeable, in the short term, but maybe in the long term. So what he's saying is there needs to be an uptick in military recruitment, which is absolutely true. There does need to be an uptick in military recruitment. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. The crux of this video, as I've just said, is UK defence chiefs are not ruling out conscription. We are moving on a daily basis now. You know what? It's not even a daily basis. It's an hourly escalation. You know, I'm spotting these things and I'm sharing them with you and I'm letting you guys know the footsteps. Most of the people on the news, they don't know what they're talking about, guys. But if you know, listen to the granularizer, like rewind it. If you guys have been on for a while, rewind it when I talked about how to use conscripts and how to use military. Look at how granular I went into that. I went down to kit and equipment, morale, training. You know, I know what I'm talking about in this aspect. So when I say we're heading towards a global conflict on an industrial scale, it's kind of hard to not see that now, right? I've been saying that for a long time. When I said that the United States are going to leave Europe to their own, again, kind of not hard to see that now. So when I'm saying that there's going to be two battlefronts here, there's going to be World War III, which is going to be overseas, guns, tanks, planes, trains, automobiles. And then there's going to be World War IV. World War IV will be fought on our streets. And if you're over 30, obviously there's going to be overlaps. If you're over 30, you're going to be fighting World War IV on the streets. If you're under 30, you're going to be fighting World War III overseas. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I will be closing down now. I'll be back on if there's any breaking news. If not, I'll be back on at 8. And look, guys, the way things are developing in the world right now, I'm under no denial that there will be another big headline. There'll be something else on the wall from pushing forwards, and that will hit the news, and I'll be talking about that at 8. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you guys later. Have a great morning, and thank you again, Donna, for the lovely super. I'll see you guys later.